Well, thanks for joining us today for today's discussion. I'm Lisa Schulteis. I am the founder and virtual event producer here at Electrolyme Marketing. And today I'm joined by two amazing people. I am joined by Dave Cadu, the CEO of International Wire and Cable Symposium, also known as IWCS, as well as Michelle Millsop, the Senior Manager of Operations at IWCS. Welcome, Dave and Michelle.
Hi there, Lisa.
All right, good morning. Actually, I think for you it might be afternoon, but I'm going to say good morning. So thanks for joining us here. We had the honor here at Electrolyme of producing your first ever virtual event. Like many events this year, you all needed to kind of convert your live event to a virtual event because of the pandemic that is being experienced around the world. And I'd love to hear from both of you, Dave and Michelle. Dave, why don't you tell us a little bit about the event itself, how long it's been going on, who the event is for, what normally happens at the live event?
We actually participate in the cable and connectivity industry. So all the connections and the infrastructure that supports computer networking, clearly the systems that we're operating right now and the data centers that hold all of the data. And what we are is we're a technical symposium where the engineers of the industry from all over the world, from Asia to Europe to the USA, South America. I believe this year we had over 27 countries represented delivering technical papers. IWCS has been holding this conference annually for 69 years, and we look forward to next year to celebrate our 70th anniversary. But this is actually a show that's not directly sales, but in essence, they are selling their company. They're selling the technology that they're developing to support our industry. But it's really geared towards the engineering and the research and development community within our industry.
Wow, and that's amazing that next year is going to be your 70th anniversary. Um,
Yeah.
what made you decide to take it virtual versus, canceling it or trying to postpone it and do it later? What was kind of that decision?
Well, one was the drive to make something happen. Obviously, in the pandemic situation, we needed to find a forum where we could actually allow presenters to present live in the best case scenario so that they could answer questions and interact with the audience. That has always been a feature of the conference where people would come together from all over the world and be able to network together, but to be able to look at someone eye to eye and ask questions rather than a fully recorded event. So that was one. But over the years, interestingly enough, even pre-pandemic, we've been asked on a number of occasions on how to engage a wider audience than those who can physically travel to the United States and participate. So we've been asked on a number of occasions to see how we can video some of these presentations or present what we have online. And we were obviously forced into it. And thankfully, we partnered up with you and your team, Lisa, and the platform that we selected, I think, worked fantastic for us. I mean, it didn't have avatars, it didn't have all the bells and whistles that come along with a sales trade show type hallmark. It was really a good, simple, functional process to deliver over 100 technical papers.
All right, and Michelle, as the senior operations manager, what was your reaction when you all finally decided that this needed to go virtually and not be live like you normally run it?
It was a mixed feeling. At first, it was pure kind of panic. And oh man, none of us know how to do this. Everybody's on completely uncharted waters. how am I going to do this? And then, after I started researching and looking into platforms and figuring out what I believed could really fit best for us, then it became more of a determination and like a little bit of excitement, a chance to do something new, get, like funky and creative and really kind of hone in on what makes IWCS special and how we could translate it. So, you know, it was scary and nobody knew what was going to happen, but luckily we were towards the middle. Like in March, people just had to like pray and go. Um, we at least had a few months to kind of do a little more research, see a few people try this out before us. So we at least had a little more availability to see what had been done. Um, so I think that it was scary, but it was also, you know, trade shows have been around for a really long time. It was really nice to do something completely new, and I'm like, really try to get creative with it.
Yeah, and you all did an amazing job. Let's talk about the stats of this event because it was a big one and it had a lot of moving parts with it. So this virtual event ended up spanning 10 days. You did Monday through Friday, 2 weeks in a row. There were over 600 attendees from 27 different countries. I mean, that alone is an amazing number that you had that many countries that were part of this event. You had 18 different tracks. You had just over 100 paper presentations over an 8-day period, and those were scheduled every 30 minutes. So you had two tracks running concurrently, and had those scheduled every 30 minutes. You had 2 days of professional development courses, and then you had 48 sponsors and exhibitors who all had their own booth as well that you were helping to manage. So there's some big numbers in there, and that's a lot of different things that you had to manage and control all at the same time. And Michelle, I just want to say, you did an amazing job of working with your sponsors and your exhibitors and your attendees, both before the event as well as during the event, and really quite an accomplishment there. So I just wanted to really acknowledge you on that. And and Dave, you were really kind of the face of the event, and people were able to come in and see that familiar face. And I think that's really important for people as well, to have kind of that grounding personality that's attached to it. So let me ask you some different questions, and we'll go through a few of these. If you're both welcome to answer them, but if there's one that you really want to give some input on, feel free. Dave, for you, what was your biggest fear in holding a virtual event?
Well, I just wanted people to have the consistent experience that they normally expect from our conference, and having a network capability to be able to meet up with folks that they generally see once a year in person from our global industry. But a lot of our attendees love to learn and get new pieces of technology and information and take it back and builds the foundation for the following year's work. And that's what I was really the most concerned about, was could we pull that off in a setting that they could not only see the presentations but also interact with people. I can absolutely say that we succeeded in doing that. So our apprehensions and fears going into it were certainly well taken care of.
And Michelle, what was your biggest challenge in hosting the virtual event, do you think?
Well, I would like to take a step back and just say that of all the challenges, I was most scared of how we were going to build this out. And Lisa, that's where you and your team came in, and you guys were phenomenal. We absolutely could not have put on the event without your expertise behind the scenes, manipulating things, finding out permissions, and all the things, the design functions that like I just wouldn't be able to do. So I did want to step back and just congratulate you on a really fabulously well done job. Um, but some of the challenges, like we mentioned before, as it was a new experience for everyone. Um, it was getting people to understand and getting myself and my team to know how to use the platform. While some things are intuitive, not everything is. And we have a lot of different people. So, the hardest part was figuring out how best to train our speakers. At one point, we had 115 speakers that were going to be coming on. Our exhibitors and sponsors how to best engage with attendees, and then the attendees how to even log on. Even things as simple as directing them to, you know, the website and the actual virtual event platform. Sometimes that wasn't intuitive, or someone's emails were getting stuck in their spam, so they never received anything. And so then you have a lot of panicky people. I don't know how to get in. So that was the biggest challenge, kind of managing expectations and also and training people. Um, it was uh, intense. It's an intense effort to kind of take it from an in-person where, yeah, go down the stairs, take a left, you're in the exhibit hall, wave at your friends, to, sign on here, make sure you've paid to register through this system. And so just really learning the ins and outs of the platform, and then somehow passing that knowledge on to 600 people so that they could really get engaged as well. I think that was the biggest challenge.
And I
Yeah,
think,
and
Lisa, what was interesting is this was a first for a lot of our attendees, and it was certainly a first for us. And so, even though we've all been getting used to the working environment and platforms, Zoom calls, WebExes, webinars, we've all been unfortunately getting used to them. This still was a brand new experience. Our exhibitors really didn't know what to expect. None of us knew what to expect. I think now going into it, next year, a lot of people now say, this is the foundation, and of course we'll make it even better next year. So I think now we've got it.
yeah, and speaking of people, you had kind of an additional challenge because with 27 countries involved, your attendees and even your speakers, not all of them have English as their first language. And so I know that we had, even working with moderators and speakers, in the green room, it was making sure that we were explaining things in a way that they would understand. We couldn't use some of our, even some of our quick little American terms, right, for lack of a better word. We really had to make sure that we were working with them, and you guys had that challenge with all of the attendees and speakers and moderators, and I think you did a beautiful job of handling that, so congratulations there as well. What worked really well that surprised you? Is there anything that you just were dreading?
What worked really well, I thought, was the ability, sort of in real time, to be able to make people comfortable with what was going on. Obviously, there was the expected technical challenges. We all knew, we didn't know what they were going to be, but we knew that there was going to be some technical issues that would come up. I just found the support network, people asking questions. I would get questions, or someone would contact me or Michelle, and then be able in real time to get that to Lisa and her team. And then just people really respected that. There were some technical glitches on getting into some of the personal meeting rooms and things like that. That once we identified the issues, they were solved very quickly. So that was very impressive. I was concerned that we might get shut down for hours on end for something or another, and that never happened. We were able to keep the conference going live, and I think to the outside world, it looked fantastic. Behind the scenes, we were sweating a little bit on vacation. That's what worked
Right.
really good.
Great. Yeah, and you figure in a 10-day event, I think all of us were sitting there expecting one day, right? Like what happens if the system goes down, right? And it never did, thankfully. And technology is a blessing and a curse, I think, for all of us. So, having an event that is that long and not having the technical issues is definitely a blessing. Let's talk about attendee
One
engagement.
point on that, Lisa, one point on that was, I think, interesting for us, and it was a change. Normally, our event is over just 4 days, but it's all day, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. reception. In order to accommodate the most time zones in the world, you mentioned 27 countries, we looked at the most optimal time, which was 8 a.m. to noon on the East Coast of the United States, covered 3/4 of the world between 6 a.m. and midnight, basically, is where we were at. So that obviously was a challenge. Could we pull this off live, or did we have to go to a bunch of recordings? And fortunately, 85% of our presentations were live, even though people were obviously presenting at 11:30 at night, 5 o'clock in the morning. It all.
Yeah, and your flexibility in your speakers was great to be able to accommodate that as well, because you did have some speakers that it was kind of late for them, but they did an amazing job of presenting their papers and working with you on those times. So that was amazing. Let's talk about attendee engagement a little bit. And Michelle, I'm going to direct this one at you. With virtual events, it's really important that we can keep our attendees engaged. We hear all kinds of things from people. They're tired of being on Zoom, or they're tired of being on WebEx, or they're just tired of being in front of the camera. You and I were joking earlier today, we're girls, so that means, makeup and hair and all of those things. And, so attendee engagement's really important. You guys decided to incorporate gamification, which your attendees loved. And so tell me a little bit about how you incorporated that, what you were giving points for, and kind of what the ultimate goal was there.
Sure. So, everybody loves a competition, especially an easy one, right? So I think that the gamification for us was kind of a no-brainer, because we were really trying to find out how to get our attendees to engage with our exhibitors. When you're on a trade show floor, you can walk by, and if you make eye contact, they're going to be able to pull you in. It's a lot easier for an exhibitor to engage with an attendee if they're live. When we're online, it's totally up to the attendee. They need to go into the booth. It's really on them. So we really tried to figure out ways to push them in and really let them know, hey, it's really valuable. Go in here, don't just check out their page, speak with them. And so we gave massive amounts of points to attendees who would join these live booths. And we highlighted in one of our pages and in a lot of our communications during the event, hey, head out, get these points, prizes will be given. So we had a place within our virtual platform where people could go and see the top, I believe it was 20, and you could see people creep up every day. The winner had like a little crown, but you could really see who was leading and who was engaging the most. We also gave points to people who scheduled live meetings, people who responded to private messages, really all the ways that you can engage. We gave them points, and at the end, the number one winner got a prize, and we also used the gamification throughout to pool our winners from. So we did a prize drawing in our organization, IWCS's booth, at the end of um, at the end of the virtual exhibition hall, and we invited everybody to come in our booth, and we did a wheel where we chose from the top, I believe it was the top 50 point getters, point winners. So we really just tried to use the gamification feature to push people to engage with each other, and it's an easy way, especially within the platform we use. It was just an easy way to just incentivize people. And I think that's one of the big things that I took away from this year is next year telling the exhibitors, hey, you can incentivize them on your own as well. There's nothing holding you back from doing prize drawings and all these other kind of ways. But I think gamification really does just incentivize people and help them realize that there's benefits to engaging beyond just the obvious sales perspective.
I agree. And, in regards to the exhibitors and the sponsors, they're all learning now too, right? That this is a new experience for them as well. And so one of the things I always tell people about, they're not sure if they want to exhibit at a virtual event, right? One of the things that we actually get from exhibiting at a virtual event that we don't get from exhibiting in person is the software will track if somebody is visiting your page. And so even if they don't necessarily interact with you, right, they're not talking to somebody in your booth or they don't request information, we can still see on the back end, and the exhibitors can as well, that Michelle came and visited my virtual booth. And if we were at a live event, if you just walk by, I don't have that information, right? And so it actually provides some additional information, and the exhibitors and sponsors now have the opportunity to really learn a new way that they can kind of build their business through these virtual events as well. And you're right. I mean, there's all kinds of things that they can do as sponsors to really, interact with those people, do their own prize drawings, a lot of different things that they can do. So I think it's opening up some new opportunities for sponsors and exhibitors. So moving towards this, I know we've talked about your event next year. Dave, you mentioned it's going to be your 70th anniversary for it. We're all hoping that the events next year can be live, but we are also seeing things. I was just on a call yesterday that, different countries are starting to pull their restrictions back in, telling people they can't travel, things like that. So as we're moving forward into 2021, and as we're looking at events, I think one of the things that we're going to be looking at is if you can't hold a live event, or even if you can have, let's say maybe only a couple hundred people in a room, how are we going to be transitioning that to more of a hybrid event? So the three of us have talked about that specifically for IWCS, of how we can, kind of incorporate that virtual and live at the same time. Dave, do you have any thoughts on that, about, how that transition is going to go? How, is that something that you guys are looking at doing? Just some thoughts on hybrid.
Yeah, Lisa, I think what the goal is clearly to have some portion of the event be live. Interestingly enough, our exhibitors were very excited about the potential of having hybrid, because that again just enhances their ability to connect people that are physically in the room at the live event. Also, all those others around the world that they could engage. And if some were saying, they could set up a monitor, a computer in their booth and have somebody there interacting with people that are joining virtually or remotely, in addition to those that are actually physically in the room. The interesting part of hybrid, however, is the fact that we would have some of the presentations would be up standing at a podium with their PowerPoints up on the screen somewhere. And then how do we interact that with the virtual event? It could be like a TV production camera kind of thing, I guess. But there's still, a hybrid event is got its own unique challenges. I mean, in one sense, I'd almost rather go fully virtual than hybrid. Just again, there may be a little fear factor there. because also some people are going to have a confusion as to whether or not should I attend, am I able to attend, and if it's virtual, maybe it's just easier for me and least expensive and all the housing, all that stuff. They would prefer to stay virtual, in which case, for those that did come live, it's almost a lesser event because there's fewer people, there's fewer interaction, yet you still have all of the same costs of a live event for the exhibitor, IWCS. So it's going to be an interesting decision to be made whether or not we can actually pull off a hybrid event. Give it a good thought hour, and Lisa, your suggestions based on experience help us in all decision.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting moving forward for people because the biggest challenge that people are going to have to overcome is how to have your live people interact with your virtual people. In the past, when people would do a live event, they would say, "Oh yeah, we have a virtual component too. We're live streaming it," right? It was almost like an afterthought. And moving forward, as we're moving into these different, events and different world of people being willing to travel or people not being willing to travel or not being able to because of restrictions, it's going to be really important to be able to really bring that attendee engagement and speaker engagement even higher, where you do have your live and your virtual people really interacting with each other. I'm also letting sponsors and exhibitors know, you're going to have to double up your sales force, right? Because you're going to have people you need to talk to in the booth, but you're also going to have people that you need to talk to virtually. And so I think it's going to be new ground that people are going to have to adjust to. But I think it's going to provide some really good new opportunities for people as well, where people can come virtually if they can't attend live. And also just opening up that pool of additional attendees for your speakers and your sponsors and exhibitors of new people that they can talk to. So I think it's going to really be a benefit in the long run, but it's really going to be a little bit of a challenge for people just to make sure that they really are getting that interaction across the board for both virtual and live attendees. So.
And I think a challenge for every industry is change is hard, right?
Yeah.
Trade shows, we've been doing the same thing forever because the model works, right? The exhibitors in the aisle, you got a speaker upstairs. You can really solidify the space that they're in and commingle, put some, receptions on the floor, things like that. That model works or worked. But now we need to move forward and we need to figure out exactly how to engage people in this post-pandemic world. And you're always going to have a challenge when you're moving into a new model, convincing people that it may not look the same. And maybe in the beginning, it's not as ideal, but it will become the new norm and it'll get remastered in a way that will actually be far more beneficial. But it is difficult to get people on board in the beginning because with anything, change is hard. And I think we're going to really have to focus on a lot of engagement, a lot of communication, a lot of visuals to really show people like, hey, I don't think anybody's going back to the only trade show model for the live trade show model for a long time. And while that's going to be hard to accept, I think education is going to be key in really helping people get ushered into what's really kind of a new era for sales and for trade shows and symposiums.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good piece of advice that you're leaving people with. It really is that kind of embrace the change and, just be ready to keep moving, right? Nothing happens if we remain stagnant. And so we just need to keep moving and make those adjustments as we go. And it really will be okay is what I tell people. It really will be okay. And you actually will kind of love this new opportunity that you're getting provided. So Dave and Michelle, I cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your very busy week. Dave, I know that you're even traveling this week and dealing with hotel Wi-Fi and all those challenges that technology give us. But I cannot thank you both enough. It was an absolute joy and pleasure and honor to be able to work with both of you on your event. And I want to thank you for entrusting my team with that. And I'm looking forward to working with you both in the future. But thank you again for your time. If there's any questions, I'm sure if you put them in the comments where you are seeing this live stream, I will either answer those for you, or if you have questions for Dave and Michelle, put those in there too, and we'll definitely get those to them and get answers back to you. So I appreciate your time, and thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
And Lisa, just one last comment. I'd like to ditto what Michelle said. You and your team did a phenomenal job of helping us understand what needed to happen to make a successful conference. And once we engaged together, that confidence factor and that excitement really took off. And we can't thank you and your organization enough. Very professional job, but job well done. So thank you.
Well, thank you. All right. Well, we will go ahead and end then and close our day. But everybody have a great day, and thank you again.
Thank you.